Stelios Arcadiou, known to the world as Steel Lark, was no ordinary man. Born in 1946 on the sun-kissed shores of Cyprus, his early years were shaped by an insatiable curiosity about the human body. Growing up in Melbourne, Australia, he was fascinated by the natural world and the ways in which the body could be manipulated, transformed, and expressed. While most children dreamt of becoming astronauts or superheroes, young Stelios dreamt of anatomy books, surgical procedures, and human form in its most unaltered state. His parents, seeing the depths of his interest, imagined a future for him in the medical field, perhaps a renowned surgeon or doctor who would make great strides in healing. But as Stelios grew, he began to reject conventional expectations. Though his passion for the body remained, his dreams of being a traditional doctor faded. Instead, he chose to take a more radical path. At the age of 25, Stelios turned his back on the idea of clinical medicine and delved into the world of performance art, his medium? The body itself. As a performance artist, Stelios used his own form as a canvas for exploration. His works pushed the boundaries of what the human body could endure, becoming a living testament to the flexibility and potential of the human form. Tattoos, piercings, and body modifications, these were his tools for self-expression. He experimented with stretching, inserting, and augmenting his body in ways that shocked and fascinated his audience. But the most shocking of his art came when he decided to push the boundaries even further. At 50 years old, in 1996, Stelios announced that he would undergo an experimental surgery. A lab-grown ear would be implanted onto his left arm. The ear would not be a mere prosthetic kit, would be designed to function like a human ear. Stelios didn't just want to wear the ear for shock value. He wanted to make a statement about the merging of humanity with technology. He documented every step of the process, ensuring the world would know of his dedication to altering the body as an art form. People were bewildered, his family and friends were concerned, and many dismissed the idea as sheer madness. But Stelios was unwavering. Why limit ourselves? He would ask. Why must the body be a boundary? The surgery was a success, though it was met with a mixture of awe and ridicule. Stelios wore the ear with pride, a bold statement of defiance against societal norms and the rigidity of human expectations. It was a commentary on the evolving relationship between technology and human identity. Yet no one could have predicted what would happen next. Just days after his surgery, Stelios went back to the hospital for a routine checkup to ensure that the ear had properly healed. What he didn't expect was the surprise awaiting him. During the examination, the doctor's face shifted from curiosity to confusion and then to awe. "The ear on your arm, it's functioning," the doctor said, his voice filled with disbelief. "It's forming neural connections, it's hearing sounds." The medical staff was stunned. After all, they had implanted a piece of tissue grown from human cells, but they hadn't expected it to behave like a fully functional organ. The ear on Stelios' arm had developed its own neural connections, linking directly to his brain. It was no longer just an art piece. It was a living, breathing, listening organ. The lab-grown ear was hearing, and Stelios could hear through it just as he could through his own ears. At first, the medical community was skeptical, researchers were perplexed. How could an ear detached from the head establish neural connections? Could this mean that technology was advancing to a point where the body and machine were no longer separate entities? Could this be the beginning of human augmentation, where body parts could be grown, replaced, and even enhanced with robotic or biological implants? As word spread, an influx of researchers, biotechnologists, and philosophers arrived at the hospital, eager to study the phenomenon. Stelios had inadvertently triggered a new wave of interest in biohacking, body modification, and the future of human evolution. What had begun as a bizarre art piece had turned into a scientific marvel. Scientists from all corners of the globe started to ask the fundamental question, what is the future of the human body in an age of biotechnology? Stelios, ever the artist, was quick to embrace the attention. He didn't see himself as an experiment, nor as a mere subject of study. He was an artist, a pioneer, and a symbol of what it meant to transcend traditional boundaries. His third ear became a symbol of human ingenuity, of the boundless possibilities that lay ahead as humans began to merge with their creations. The world watched in awe as Stelios' story unfolded. As the ear continued to develop and form more intricate neural connections, Stelios began to use his arm in performance art pieces where the ear not only listened but responded to sound waves in ways that seemed almost supernatural. The ear would vibrate with certain frequencies, amplifying noises in ways that captivated his audiences. Stelios was no longer just an artist of flesh and ink. He had become a pioneer of human-machine fusion. The implications of his experiment were profound. It was no longer a question of whether humans could augment their bodies, it was a question of why they should. As Stelios traveled the world speaking about his experiences, his work sparked debates about the nature of identity. Were we still human when we incorporated technology into our bodies? Could the fusion of body and machine enhance our senses, expand our capabilities, or even change our consciousness? For Stelios, the answer was simple, yes. He believed that humanity's greatest strength lay in its ability to adapt, to evolve, and to redefine what it meant to be human. His work wasn't just about shocking people or testing the limits of the body, it was about embracing the future. He had become more than just an artist or a man with a third ear. He had become a living testament to the possibility of human potential and embodiment of the idea that we are not defined by our biology, but by our will to innovate and transform. In the years that followed, Stelios' steel lark continued to inspire countless others. His third ear was not just an oddity, but a symbol of what was possible when one dared to think beyond the limits of nature. Stelios' journey was a reminder that the future of the human body was not something to fear, but something to explore with wonder, curiosity, and an unwavering commitment to redefining what it meant to be human in a world increasingly defined by technology. As the years passed, Stelios' steel lark story became a touchstone in the growing discourse surrounding human augmentation and the integration of technology into the body. His third ear, now fully functional, capable of hearing even the faintest sounds, had not only redefined the possibilities of human biology, but also created a new philosophical and ethical framework for how society viewed the human form. Stelios was no longer just an eccentric performance artist. He had transformed into a symbol, a living example of what some would call post-humanism. His story resonated with anyone who ever wondered what it meant to be human in an increasingly technological world. Was the body a fixed, immutable vessel, or was it a canvas, waiting to be rewritten by human ingenuity? Stelios' newfound fame didn't just stay within the art world. It began to permeate the academic, medical, and technological sectors. Researchers in the fields of neurology and bioengineering took an intense interest in Stelios' case. His ability to create a working ear on his arm, with neural connections to his brain, was groundbreaking. Some speculated that his experiment could one day lead to the development of prosthetics or implants that could do more than simply replace missing body parts. They could enhance them, giving people new abilities and redefining sensory experiences. In the world of neuroscience, the very concept of neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself, was taken to a new level. Stelios' armor not only proved that the brain could adapt to new sensory inputs, but it also suggested that the boundaries between biological tissue and synthetic materials were more porous than anyone had ever imagined. His third ear was a living example of the fusion of organic and artificial. Some researchers even began to theorize that, in the future, human senses could be augmented beyond their natural limits, and perhaps even expanded into new realms altogether, senses that could detect electromagnetic fields, radio waves, or even communicate directly with computers. With time, Stelios' implant began to capture the attention of the tech world as well. Silicon Valley's top innovators saw the potential for using his work as a basis for the development of cybernetic enhancements. Could Stelios's ear become the precursor to larger, more complex augmentations? Could humans one day augment their bodies with bioengineered organs, nanotechnology, or even artificial intelligence? These were questions that had once seemed the domain of science fiction, but now, with Stelios's audacious experiment, they were closer to reality. For Stelios, the future was a tantalizing mix of endless possibilities. His philosophy was rooted in the idea that human potential could be expanded indefinitely. Asterisk, why limit the human body to its evolutionary constraints? Asterisk, he would ask, his arm proudly displaying the third ear that had made him famous. He began to advocate for the next stage of human evolution, one that was driven not by the slow processes of natural selection, but by the deliberate, intentional act of human creativity and technological innovation. He envisioned a world where the body was no longer seen as a static thing, but as a fluid, evolving entity that could be continuously improved and adapted. But for all the wonder and excitement that Stelios's experiment inspired, it also raised some uncomfortable questions. Was it ethical to modify the human body to such extremes? Would society be ready for a future where human enhancement was no longer the exception, but the norm? As Stelios's story spread across the globe, debates raged in the media, in academic circles, and among everyday people. Some saw Stelios's augmentation as an act of human liberation. By choosing to enhance his body, Stelios was exercising his fundamental right to self-determination. He had transcended the limitations of his biology and become the master of his own form. To these supporters, his third ear was a symbol of humanity's boundless creativity and ingenuity. Others, however, were deeply uneasy. There were those who argued that such experiments could lead to dangerous consequences, both for the individual and for society as a whole. What happened when people began to push the boundaries of biology? Would we risk creating a future of inequality where only the wealthy could afford enhancements, leaving the rest of humanity behind? And what if these modifications began to alter what it meant to be human? Some critics of Stelios's work argued that enhancing the human body could lead to a loss of humanity. Would we still be human if we could replace our limbs, augment our senses, or even alter our brains with artificial implants? What would it mean for our sense of self? We could no longer distinguish between human and machine. Stelios was unfazed by these debates. For him, the question wasn't asterisk if asterisk we should augment the human body, but asterisk how asterisk and asterisk why asterisk we should do it. He spoke openly about his vision for the future where humans could integrate technology into their lives in ways that enhance not only their physical abilities, but also their mental and emotional capacities. He envisioned a world where people could live longer, healthier lives, where the limitations of age, disease, and even death could be mitigated by scientific advances. As Stelios traveled the world to speak about his work, he encountered both fervent supporters and passionate detractors. But regardless of where people stood on the issue, one thing was clear: Stelios had changed the conversation. The third ear on his arm had sparked a global dialogue about what it meant to be human in the age of technology. Years later, Stelios continued to push the boundaries of human augmentation. His third ear became a part of his identity, but it was no longer the focus of his work. He began experimenting with other forms of enhancement, further challenging the limits of human biology. At one point, he underwent a second surgery to implant a small sensory device in his retina, allowing him to see in infrared. In another project, Stelios worked with geneticists to explore the possibility of using CRISPR technology to enhance his cognitive abilities. His art, too, evolved. Stelios's performances became even more immersive, using virtual reality, biofeedback, and other cutting-edge technologies to create multisensory experiences that blurred the line between the physical and the digital. His performances became spectacles, transcending the traditional boundaries of the gallery or the stage. Audiences from around the world would come to see Stelios's work, drawn not only by his reputation as a provocateur, but by the sheer wonder of what he was doing with his own body. In time, Stelios became a living legend, a man who had dared to alter his body in ways that no one had ever imagined. He had not only reshaped his own physical form, but had reshaped the world's understanding of what was possible with human biology and technology. His third ear had started a revolution, one that had only just begun. As the world stood at the precipice of a new era, Stelios' steel lark remained a living symbol of the possibilities of human evolution. Whether one viewed him as a visionary or a madman, there was no denying the profound impact he had on the world. His third ear on his arm was no longer just a quirky modification. It was the first chapter in a story that would shape the future of humanity for generations to come. In the end, Stelios had proven one fundamental truth. The only limits to human potential are the ones we place on ourselves. And as the world continued to change, he would be there on the cutting edge, ready to push those limits even further.